What up, and welcome back to another episode of Throwback Thursday. This week, we're talking about Season 4, Episode 4, titled Indifference, which originally aired on November 3rd, 2013. It was directed by Tricia Brock and written by Matthew Negrete. I want to say, when this starts off, I really do like these episodes. I'm glad I got back into it after getting through that first episode. I really disliked that first episode. It just felt so draggy for so long, because we just needed to see we have to be reintroduced to everybody, which is kind of a little flaw, like, of the writing, pretty much, because in season 2, let's say, for example, we didn't need we got straight into, our crew is badass now. Was it season 2 or 3? Better been the beginning of season 3 when they searched the house with the guns. We're like, oh, they're badasses now. So yeah, I forgot how season 2 opens up, but nonetheless, this one was like, oh, let's see what everyone's been doing for 6 months. It was, but anyway, we get through all that, and this is great. And this episode starts out really, really good. And we're kind of getting a little bit of showing that our characters have regrets in the beginning, because we're seeing Rick and Carol, and Carol's talking to Lizzie through the bear. You can see she's absolutely fine. There's nothing wrong with her through the divided wall glass, And she's telling her she has to be strong, but it's like she's telling this to Rick, in a sense, even though Rick can't hear it. He's in a different room. But what I mean about the regret part is that Rick is looking at his fist after he punched the shit out of Tyreese, and he feels regret. And Carol is looking at her knife, and it's like she has regret for killing those people. And then she's telling this whole dialogue between her and Lizzie that Lizzie has to be strong. And Lizzie's in this little conversation, because Lizzie has some comeback, and she Carol says that they're dead, they're not coming back, they're not the same thing. And she goes, no, they are. Like, we change. Like, I'm small now, but when I get older, I'm gonna grow. I'm gonna be different, but I'm gonna be the same. And I was just like, And then Carol's like, that's different or whatever. I like this whole intro. We find out that Rick and Carol are going to go on a run because Bob and Daryl, Michonne, and Tyreese have not returned for a night. Thank God that Herschel did get the berries and make the tea, because that's going to prolong the lives or save the lives of some of the people that are left in the prison. So Carol and Rick are going, and Rick, you can see he's contemplating or struggling with what he knows he's gonna do. The episode starts, and we go back to see Daryl and Tyreese and everybody sitting down, and they're like, look, come on, we gotta go. And then Tyreese is like not listening to anybody, and he's already accepted, since they had to lam it overnight, that everybody's dead. Tyreese goes with them. They're gonna go look for a new vehicle, so they could go to the college, so they could get the veterinary supplies, the medicine, so they could bring it back to the prison. And this episode's basically we do cut back and forth in between this group scavenging for things, Daryl and them, but it's really Carol and Rick's episode. And it's really Rick stepping back up into the position that that he didn't want himself in, and everybody else wanted him in. And it's also explaining Carol so that we don't despise her, and we understand why and how she evolved from that meek little woman into this woman that has to take things into her own hands and wants everyone to be prepared. Like, what made her this way? And there's even a little scene in the beginning when they're talking, when they're on the road driving, and she's like, Maggie wanted to come. Like, why didn't you let Maggie come? And he's like, oh, somebody needed to stay behind, watch everybody. And she's like, you mean somebody you trust, right? Because Carol already knows Rick doesn't trust her. I don't know if she thinks Rick's gonna try to put her down or what, but she knows that Rick, maybe not put her down, because Rick is a moral guy, and she knows but she feels something. I don't know if she knew exactly what, maybe just a confrontation, and she was trying to get it over with, but she knows something's gonna come of this going. She's like, why Rick wants to go with me all of a sudden. Carol also tells her what her reasonings were to try to get it out of the way. She's like, well, look, they were the only ones that were sick. I had to, they were going to kill everybody. They were a threat. I had to take them out. Somebody had to try to do something to keep everybody safe. They were going to kill everybody. And Rick doesn't entertain this conversation. He's like, maybe. But Rick says, like, no, we could have just locked them up like we did and make sure nobody went to see them. But they didn't really do a good job where they put them, because they said they were going to put them in death row, but they were scared because they felt that doesn't seem right to put them in death row. So they put them in the tombs where the windows had open. Everyone else could have got sick, technically. I mean, but it wouldn't really matter. We see that it doesn't matter. Everyone was already sick after she killed them. It's like, oh, it's already spread. but she didn't know that at the time. And I don't really know why the writers decided to do this technically to make it her. I don't know. Does she in dispute with her contract or something? You know what I mean? Like, it's like, it's interesting because I don't think she returns. I really felt like this was the end of Carol's character for a while. Like, this is no, we'll bring you back or whatever or something. I don't know. I gotta look into this more. I mean, she obviously does return in this season, but for not for a long time. And I don't know if it was an outcry of fans being like, we like Carol, you know, we like what Carol's become, and she's right. She wasn't right to kill them, obviously, right? And then she has a whole thing with Tyreese and later on in the season. So I'm just like, what the hell? But anyway, they're in a little cul-de-sac. They pull over. They see a car that looks okay because dusty in the back, but the front, the windshields are clean. So I think somebody's been using it. Somebody might be around. They see the keys are still inside the car, and they said, "Well, let's search around these houses if we've run into anybody or whatever." So we get that going on there. So then we go back to Daryl, Michonne, and them, and there's a little bit of insulting of Michonne. I do like Michonne's smile here; it's very cute. She's Jasper on the floor because Daryl bends down, sees this little rock, picks it up. She goes, "That Jasper?" He's like, "Yeah, he's cleaning it." And she goes, "Brings out your eyes," and she has this little cute smile. And then Daryl knows she's full of shit. She's just fucking with him. And he looks at her. He goes, "Yeah, this woman whose husband died from Woodbury. She asked me to keep a lookout if I find any. She wants as a marker for her husband's grave." And Michonne's like, "You know all of them over there?" And then Daryl's like, "Yeah, well, if you stay somewhere more than a few hours, you'll get to know people." And Michonne's kind of like, "That's a dig at me because I'm always leaving." Yes, it is, Michonne. Yes, it is. Then they end up seeing a gas station and they see a car, and then they try to hotwire the car and the battery's not working. So they need a new battery. The car's good, they just need a new battery. And they said that's probably inside the gas station. And they look and there's walkers in there and like, shit, but we got to get in there. They start cutting some branches to try to open the back door to get in there. And Walker's back there too. And Tyreese is just going crazy, making a lot of noise. And they're looking at him like, the fuck? It's like Tyreese is on a death mission. He wants to die. That's what this episode for Tyrese's character is too. He's just like, for a while, he's just like ready to die. He's just like, I lost my girl. My sister's probably dead, because he's already thinking negatively, because he's been thinking negatively ever since his girl died. And he's like, what's the point, basically? But he doesn't express this with words. You could just see it. You could tell by his actions. And he's just going crazy. And he causes walkers to come out. He doesn't stop. It's all a mess. Then we go back to a house that Rick and Carol are scavenging, and they see a walker. They kill it. After they kill it, all of a sudden the door opens upstairs, and they see two survivors, Anna and Sam. And I'm surprised. For the record, he does show up later on, and I forgot all about him. But he's really good in this episode. We find out that he's funny. They did good casting, because these are innocent people. And both of these characters portray that very well. They come off just by their talking. You can, like, it's hard to, their speech, their mannerisms, everything. You could just see that they're just wholesome people. So they offer them peaches and apricot. They go, "It's okay, we're cool, we're good people." And they offer them peaches and apricots. He goes, "Here, see, catch." And he throws it. And Carol and Rick just hold the guns and looking at them the entire time as the peach falls down the stairs. And he's like, don't, like, they're nervous. They just survive. They've been surviving, just the two of them by themselves. And, the guy Sam has a pulled shoulder, I think, or dislocated shoulder. And the girl, she had a broken leg and it didn't heal properly, so she can't really run. And these two guys just been together the entire time. And Rick's also using this moment to see how Carol's going to react to Rick wanting to let them into their group. After he asks them some questions and everything, gives them the test, Carol's kind of like already like, we have too many and we're not teaching them anything. And nobody's really being a leader anymore. We have a council, but nobody's agreeing really much. Everything's like, do the right thing, but don't step on anybody's toes. And we kind of need that leader again that will step on people's toes to do what's right and be the Rick Grimes used to be. This is not a dictate. This is not a democracy anymore. It's a dictatorship. Be that Rick Grimes, because that Rick Grimes saved people's lives. And because you wanted to become a farmer and you're upset because you lost Lori, now you have a council and everyone's just being too nicey nice and agreeing, getting along to get along. And we don't want that anymore. Well, at least we need somebody like Carol. Carol would have been good if she could have had a bigger voice, but she didn't. Even though I would assume her, Daryl, and Glenn could have taken over and told Herschel to go fuck himself. Carol fixes Sam's arm. which Rick is surprised. It's like something he didn't know that Carol could do. And Carol's basically surprising him a lot about this, especially with anytime Carol opens her mouth. Rick is just like, this bitch is a liar. She's just constantly lying. She's like, this is not the woman I know anymore. Why are you lying all the time? But she always has a reason why she lies, and she tells him, you know, these two want to join the group. They said, do you have a group like we could join, we can help or whatever? It's like, well, look, there's a virus out there. Rick tells them that we got a problem right now. There's like a flu, it's an infection, and people are getting sick. If you want, you can stay here until we get everything together, and we'll come back and we'll get you. And Carol's kind of like, no, these guys are useless. He has a fucked up arm. She's a fucked up leg. Like, what are we going to do with them if we do come back to bring them back after everything? What are they going to contribute? It's just another mouth to feed. And they're like, oh, no, we want to go now. Like, we could help. And then she's like, oh, well, you know what? Why don't you check the other houses? And then Rick's like, they can't. What do you mean check the other houses? And she's like, and then we'll meet back. And then they're like, okay. And then Rick's like, what the fuck? And then ended up, I'll tell you, spoiler alert, we're going to go right through it. I'm just going to cut through because this is really just two stories. They're arguing or talking back and forth about the decisions she made to kill these two people. And she's like, you know, throughout the entire episode. And then they start looking like, let's see, because Rick gives them to watch 2 hours. We'll scavenge around this cul-de-sac, this neighborhood. We'll meet back over here. And he's waiting for the 2 hours have passed and nobody's there. And Carol's like, come on, let's go. And it's like, he's like, oh, let's give him a few more minutes. He goes, it's been 2.5 hours. You told him 2 hours already. They would have been here by now. And then Rick's like, let's give him some more time. And then Carol's just like, like Carol's like, maybe they could have survived, maybe, you know, but we gave them enough time, you know, and we could come back later when everything's all right. We could come back and check, but we have to get this medicine to Herschel in the group. And then she goes, it was a nice watch, because Rick gave the watch, which was a nice watch, which they focused on earlier in the episode. So it was Rick's just like this entire time, she's not making it easy for him to like say, you know what, I'm not gonna leave her. No, she just keeps on with this. Daryl and the gang, Daryl and Bob get inside the gas station. They find a battery. It's a little bit rusted. Daryl says, don't worry, a little bit of distilled water will clear this right out. Michonne and Tyreese is trying to clear out the car, the car that they were trying to hotwire earlier, from all this, ivy or whatever. It was all this bush covering it, and leaves. And Tyreese is going crazy like an animal, and Michonne's like, "What do you like? You should have let the walker go." He's like, "What do you know about it?" She's like, "I know that you were almost gonna get yourself killed. Is that what you want to do? Like, is that what you want? I know you're upset. I know you're angry, but it makes you stupid, and like you're gonna put everyone else at risk by doing this. And I know you're angry. You're gonna get your revenge or whatever." She goes, "Well, what about you? Aren't you angry about the governor? What the governor did?" And he goes, "Yeah, if he was here right now, I'd kill him or whatever." She goes, "Why do you keep going out if you're not angry?" Because she's kind of like, but not now. Like I'm not as angry anymore. I kind of got over it a little bit, but I still want to kill him. And she's like, well, why do you keep going out if it doesn't make you angry and you don't, And she's like, I don't know why. She's trying to realize it. Why am I leaving? It's over. He ran away. He got away. I can't find him anywhere. Andrea's gone. It's been 6 months. Why am I still looking for this guy? If I come across him, I'll do what I have to do. But, Bob is talking to Daryl. Daryl kind of says, these stupid idiots, they killed themselves in here because they drank antifreeze. And then Bob's kind of like, people don't have hope anymore. They wanted to go out together. They were like, they were a family. They want to go out together. Sometimes people do things, when they don't have any more hope. Which later Bob does confess to Daryl, the same episode, that the reason why Zach died is because he's alcoholic, because he used to every night he'd be quiet and he'd be scared, even when he would be with people, and that he'd drink himself to sleep because he was just didn't like the quiet, because that's the top part of the night where he was the scaredest, I guess. And when they went to go do the scavenger hunt or the run at the big department store, he says he did it for himself because he wanted alcohol, because he's kind of a drunk, and that is he's the reason why Zach got killed, because he slammed his hand down to put it back on the shelf because he wasn't going to drink it, and it caused everything to collapse. And then Daryl's like, no, that's bullshit. Which, no, Daryl, it's not bullshit. You're going to find that out later on when they end up going to the college. They end up finding medicine, but they get swarmed by walkers of different directions that were in the college, some that have the flu virus, which we'll never see again, and some that were just regular dead walkers. And they come, it's a pretty fun action scene. They get all the medicine they need. They have to break a window to get out. For some reason, they couldn't get out the way they came because they were surrounded by walkers that just show up because, you know, when they got in just fine, but when it's time to leave, they just so they smash through a window. Tyreese throws a fire extinguisher through a window. They jump out in this little, I don't know what it's called, and when Bob jumps out, his bag almost falls over and he's fighting to hold the bag, and they're like, let the bag go, because there's all these walkers holding onto the bag, and Bob's fighting, he finally pulls it back up, and everyone's like, okay. And then Daryl looks in the bag and he goes, you don't even have medicine in here, it's a fucking bottle of liquor. He's like, Daryl says, like, you know, if you have one sip of this before we get to the prison, I'm gonna put you down. And then he gives him the bottle. He goes, you should have never even, you know, I should have drove right by you when you were looking for help that day. He picked them up. Anyway, so Carol confronts Rick and she goes, I killed 2 people, you haven't said anything about it. This is what I was talking about earlier. Rick goes, what do you want me to say? She goes, it's not about what you say, it's about facing reality. You know, they were a risk, just face it. Like, she doesn't care what he says. She's trying to get it through his head. Like, it's us against them. And she goes, oh, it was always us against them. She goes, yeah. And she's like, she's one of the best lines in the series, or this so far this season, for 4 episodes. She goes, you could be a farmer, Rick. You can't just be a farmer. And I was like, oh, that's a great line. And Rick's just like, oh. So we see that she just wants Rick to accept what she's done and that she did it for a good reason, which she did. But Rick is kind of like, I don't know who you are anymore. You told these people you have a child, which they do talk about Sophia later on. He's like, why don't you mention Sophia anymore? And she's like, why should I? Why am I going to bring up my past life? What does it matter? And they have a whole little thing where Rick talks about how every Sunday, Lori used to make pancakes. They were the worst, disgusting pancakes. The mix was never done right, but they always ate it. And we always used to hate eating it, but we played along. And then Carol's like, why did you play along? And then she goes, because Lori wanted it to be special. She wanted us to be the type of family that always ate pancakes on Sundays. And then that's when Rick's like, this is your bag. You're not coming with us. Goodbye, Carol. I can't trust you. I can't have you around the prison anymore. I can't have you around Judith. I can't have you around Carl. And she's, I'm not going around my kids, Lizzie and Mika. She goes, they're 10 years old. Mika's 10. Lizzie's 11. She goes, you want them to come out here with you? Like, are you crazy? She goes, Rick's like, you're going to be fine. You're going to survive. He goes, don't worry about it. Right? I believe that. Out of anything, you will survive this world. You're no longer the little woman that got beat by her husband all the time and just accepted it and thought you were actually in love or whatever. And then she's like, she accepts it and she gives Rick her watch that her husband bought her. And she goes, I should have got rid of this a long time ago. And she gives it to Rick and Rick takes it. Oh yeah, but I don't know if I mentioned this. I might have mentioned it. I'm all over the place in this review. Before he sets her off on her way, they did talk about Sophia a little bit and her being abused. I did mention that, but they saw the leg of the girl, that her leg that she had messed up, like she couldn't really run, didn't heal well. Well, the survivor, they found her leg on the floor. It was bitten. But like, oh well, they're gone, and that's how that story ended. Until later on, we'll see that guy shows up again. But yeah, the episode basically ends with Tyreese accepting that he's alive and his girlfriend's dead, and he's got to get his sister better. Michonne accepting that she doesn't need to go on runs looking for the governor anymore, that she's going to start being a part of the community, and that Rick is accepting that he had to let Carol go on her own, that she couldn't bring her back, that he had to let her go. Essentially, he knows he's not killing her because he knows she's going to survive. She's a survivor. He has no worries about that. He's just like, it's like losing somebody in a different way for Rick. He hasn't experienced this kind of loss. It is a loss to Rick, but in a totally different way. And yeah, that's the episode in general. That's Indifferent. It's a really good episode. I like it a lot. I actually highly enjoyed this episode out of most of them. It doesn't have a great rating online, but honestly, between the characters and the story, the character development, and particularly between everybody, this is a very good story, very strong, and a very strong episode. It had just the right amount of, walkers, action, and amount of good story. Everybody's character evolved a little bit except for Daryl, which doesn't need to be developed right now in this episode. He doesn't need. But yeah, all in all, I like this episode. It's a good episode. This season so far is getting better, and it's gonna suck. I'll wait till I get to the episodes that really suck. But anyway, That's all for this week. Let me know in the comment section down below what you thought about this episode, if you enjoyed it, and what's your thoughts on it, if you rewatched it. What do you think? What's the highlights of it? Anyway, if you like this video, hit that like button, subscribe if you're new here, and I will talk to you guys next time. Peace.